Just doing some dishes, listening to MrMet40oz. What up, Mr. Met? While I was doing the dishes, I listened to you talk about Reggie Steele, 40-ounce fraud. I want to talk about 40-ounce fraud. I want to talk about trolling, like Reet Geeb. I want to talk about people, how our community responds to people who don't fit in, because we don't kick people out. But some of the things we say to some people sound harsher or inappropriate. And in some cases, it's not. In other cases, it's like a clear signal that our community is responding to something that's going on for you that you really need to pay attention to. And one of the things I'm starting to realize is when we address people in that way, part of the reason we need to address them is because they lack self-awareness. So like they don't pick up on why there's community-wide animosity directed towards them. And the responses typically are just to spin out even harder, and that's why you're having trouble fitting into our community as well. So like that'll leave me, I guess I'll finish up with talking about Fairly Weo. Alright, so 40-ounce fraud actually did buy a bunch of brand new bottles of 40 ounces of delicious malt liquor, purchased a bunch of old labels, different brands, put them all on the exact same kind of malt liquor he'd purchased. So like it was immediately obvious to anybody who knew anything about collecting old bottles that not only were all the caps similar to these different brands of malt liquor, so to speak, but none of the malt liquor had gone bad. That kind of like murky, filmy bogginess with gunk floating in the bottom. They were all brand new, fresh malt liquor bottles. So 40-ounce Fear tore Reggie Steele a fucking new one. It was an epic video. Like lying in our community. Here's one thing I'll just tell you guys, everybody out there who lies, like Ted Barris, Reggie Steele, Dorf. A lot of people learn to lie through trial and error. How many times they get caught is how they learn to adjust their lies. Oddly enough, rather than what a sane, rational person would do, is like, I'm getting caught over and over again lying. I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to live a real life and say real things and stop being a 9-year-old. So a lot of people, people who develop a better system of lying, have a lying persona. Like, you know, you could tell when they're doing real talk, and you could tell when they're like, oh, well, you know what I meant to say was that I had that where you couldn't see it, and then someone got it for me. That's why, like, you know, I didn't have, you know, it's like they're a little bit smoother than that, but that's what it sounds like to somebody who's like, you know, more perceptive. Actually, like, the more honest you are, it seems to me as a person, the more easy it is to detect when other people are lying. What else? Oh, the similarities. Everyone's putting out videos that are the same. That's obviously not true. Just because we all have a canvas, a paintbrush, and we put paint on that and mark it on the canvas, does not mean we're all producing the exact same art. The fact that there's similarities, well, there's a paintbrush, there's paint, there's a canvas, so you're all doing the same thing, is typically the battle cry of someone who just can't fit in and is angry at the people who do. The similarities show connectivity in our community. That's how you know we're the YTDC and not just different people uploading videos while we're drinking a beer. I know people do that. I know lots of people discover us. People actually were drinking beer on the internet and they weren't a part of a community. So just because they were doing the same thing we were didn't make them part of our community until they found us and decided, like, hey, these seem like some cool cats. I'm going to drink with them and give them shout-outs and follow the blueprint and rate, comment, and subscribe. All right, so Reggie Steele's sobriety, and I'm going to take this straight into Weo. Some people, Reggie Steele, Dorf, Fairly Weo, and some other people that I will not name, that because they do not spin out. They realize they don't quite fit in our community. And we respect differences. People in our community are really, really varied, and we respect differences. It doesn't matter. We might like harass and heckle, and that's what you do when you're drinking beer with each other. But sometimes what we do, how we respond, is it kind of directly relates to how badly you want to fit in, but you refuse to realize you don't quite. And you refuse to believe that you should accept that. You don't have to fit in. to be a part of the YTDC. So Fairly Weo did not fit in, and this drove him mad. And so he lashed out at everybody. He also's got anger problems and smokes weed like he's a goddamn chimney, and obsessive eater and angry at everybody for being fat. Like he's like, if I could only shame everybody into being skinny, maybe it'll be easier for me to be skinny. Or I don't know. I don't know what his problem, but I do know he's too chubby for me to love. So our community responds to him. That's Fairly Weo is not his original name. It was the name that the community gave him. Fairly Weo, as kind of a way to say, like, you know, calm your shit down, just relax, do what you do what you enjoy. He did this massive painting of a 40-ounce bottle. It was epic. Ordinarily, you'd get mad props for that, but if you act like a complete crybaby weasel, you're just going to get a terrible nickname and our derision. My mind was just flashing on all the people who don't fit into our community, but they do. There's the puzzle pieces, and there's the pieces outside of the puzzle, and then there's the pieces that are a puzzle piece but are never going to fit necessarily into the puzzle, and that's all part of the variety. There's no reason to say this doesn't fit, let's get rid of it. This piece belongs with the other pieces, just not necessarily going to mesh. And that could be a good thing, diversity, or it could be a bad thing, spin out, like Weo, Dorf. Yeah, anyway, great video, and what else was I going to say? Nothing really, that's it. It's too early. I've only had one cup of coffee.